Breaking: Massachusetts assault weapons ban ruled constitutional. Here's why. The controversial gun debate has gone on for years, and it always comes up whenever there's a mass shooting. This time it was the Parkland shooting that brought the anti-gun protesters back to the surface and spotlight. It only took a few victims splattered out on their high school campus by a young man who faced a life of turmoil and mental health challenges that somehow slipped by without getting help. When the man finally cracked and took his life in the direction of evil, it was just a matter of a few trigger pulls that affected so many lives. Even though the gun wouldn't have done anything in the right hands, but in the wrong hands committed acts of bloody sin that may not ever be forgiven. After the tragedy, a group of students somehow magically organized an averagely-sized march, with the help of Democrats, and protested against violence with guns and guns in general. The debates on high-capacity magazines and AR-15s were back in the limelight, throwing shade on every American gun owner who has not committed the crime but is indirectly being blamed for the actions that took many lives that day in Florida. It only takes one incident for the Democrat ideas convey themselves and place blame upon every gun owner on the planet each time a mass shooter attacks innocent people. The latest attack on the great American freedom of gun ownership is to ban assault weapons and high-capacity magazines. The attempt happened in Massachusetts and it was successful. A court in Massachusetts just denied a huge complaint against the assault weapon ban that happened. The complaint stated that the ban was unconstitutional. However, the United States District Court for the District of Massachusetts stated that the ban was constitutional, and they described similar bans to state their case and reasoning for the dismissal of the complaint. They then stated that there was an absence of federal legislation that would have, or could have, protected against the ban, but since there was no such regulation, according to them, then the ban on assault weapons was thus stated as constitutional and it went through. It now grants Massachusetts the right to ban weapons and the high-capacity magazines that can be attached. Breitbart reported, the United States District Court for the District of Massachusetts dismissed a complaint against the state's assault weapons ban on Friday and expressly described similar bans as constitutional. The court explained its decision to dismiss the complaint by stating that the AR-15 and its analogs, along with large-capacity magazines, are simply not weapons within the original meaning of the individual constitutional right to bear arms. Because a ban on the AR-15 and large-capacity magazines is, in its opinion, constitutional, the court ruled that the question of whether a ban exists is one to be decided by legislatures, not judges. In the absence of federal legislation, Massachusetts is free to ban these weapons and large-capacity magazines. Other states are equally free to leave unregulated and available to their law-abiding citizens. Their policy matters are simply not of constitutional moment. Americans are not afraid of bumptious, raucous, and robust debate about these matters. We call it democracy. Whereas the district court says AR-15s and large-capacity magazines do not fall within the original meaning of the individual constitutional right to bear arms, Supreme Court Justice Neil Gorsuch used his confirmation to stress that the test for constitutional protections of a given firearm is whether it is in common use. As of now, it appears as though the ban stands and will likely face a plethora of appeals from people on the Republican side of politics. Many people own guns and it has their constitutional right to do so. Whether someone owns guns or not is none of anyone else's business. What people do in their spare time and what hobbies or guns they own for hunting or self-defense should be their prerogative. With over 300 million guns in America, it is amazing that so many legal gun owners continue to not commit any crimes on a daily basis. The majority of gun crimes tend to happen when criminals break the laws and commit violent acts of murder. Murder is already illegal and comes with a very stiff punishment that can be life in prison or the death penalty. For one slight pull of a trigger, a person can be executed decades later while spending the remaining time in the cells. If that isn't already a deterrent harsh enough to stop criminals, then what is? New laws won't help and banning weapons won't help either. There are simply too many guns in America, and to punish anyone who follows the laws should not be tolerated. The 1930s weren't that long ago when Adolf Hitler confiscated weapons from Jewish people and then slaughtered them unmercifully. Let gun owners have their guns, but make sure the background checks stop people with a history of mental illness and police records. Everyone wants to be safe and no one wants a bloodbath, but the people who follow the law shouldn't be the ones punished for the crimes of others.